The morning sun painted the sky orange over New Sol Colony. Children's laughter filled the air around the big white building that sat on the hill. This was the New Sol Children's Home, the largest orphanage on this side of the galaxy. Hana. Kim walked through the main hall, her soft footsteps mixing with the sounds of breakfast time. She had run this place for 15 years. The children called her Mama Hana even though she was not their real mother. To her, every single child here was family. Mama Hana, look what I made. Young-Ho Lee ran up to her. The 10-year-old boy held up a drawing made with colored pencils. It showed stick figures of children playing under a bright yellow sun. It's beautiful, Young-Ho, Hana said, kneeling down to his level. Tell me about it. That's me and Sunmi and Jae-won playing space explorers. We're going to visit all the stars when we grow up. His eyes sparkled with excitement. Hana smiled and ruffled his hair. I'm sure you will. But first, go eat your breakfast before it gets cold. Young-Ho nodded and ran back to the dining hall. Hana watched him go, her heart warm with love for these children. They came from all over the galaxy. Some were human like Young-Ho, but others were from different alien races. All of them had lost their families in wars or accidents. Here, they found a new home. The orphanage housed 837 children. It was more than just a place to live. The children learned about science, art, and languages. They played games and made friends. Most importantly, they felt safe and loved. Hana walked to her office and sat at her desk. She had paperwork to do, but she could still hear the children playing outside. The sound always made her happy. She picked up her communication device to check the daily reports from other colonies. Far above the planet, Captain Daewon Park stood on the bridge of his ship, the TDC Harmony. His crew was finishing their patrol of this star system. Everything seemed normal and peaceful. Captain, we're getting some strange readings on long-range sensors, said Lieutenant Cohen from her station. Daewon walked over to look at the display. What kind of readings? Multiple ships jumping out of hyperspace. Big ones. They're not broadcasting any identification codes. Daewon felt a cold feeling in his stomach. Ships that didn't identify themselves usually meant trouble. How many ships? At least 20, maybe more. They're moving toward New Sol. Red alert. All hands to battle stations. Send a message to New Sol Colony. Tell them unknown ships are approaching. The ship's alarm started ringing. Red lights flashed on every deck. The crew ran to their positions, getting ready for whatever was coming. On New Sol, the colony's defense center received the message. The few security officers they had started preparing. But everyone knew this was a peaceful colony. They had no real weapons or soldiers. If someone wanted to attack them, they could not fight back. At the orphanage, Hana heard the emergency sirens. From the colony, she quickly called all the staff together. Everyone, we need to get the children to the underground shelters. This is not a drill, she said, trying to keep her voice calm. The staff nodded and spread out through the building. They had practiced this many times but never thought they would really need to use the emergency plan. Children, we're going to play the safe room game, announced teacher Mi-jin Park over the loudspeaker. Everyone needs to go to the basement, with your buddy. Young-Ho grabbed his friend Sunmi's hand. The 8-year-old girl was scared, but Young-Ho smiled at her. Don't worry, Mama Hana will keep us safe. The children moved in groups toward the stairs that led underground. The older kids helped the younger ones. Teachers and staff guided them, counting to make sure everyone was there. Above the planet, the unknown ships came closer. Captain Daewon could see them clearly now on his screens. The ships were black and shaped like sharp triangles. He knew these ships. They belonged to the Velkari Empire. The Velkari were known across the galaxy as fierce warriors. They had conquered many worlds and ruled them with fear. But they had never attacked a human colony before. Humans and Velkari were not friends, but they were not enemies either. Captain, the Velkari ships are powering up their weapons, Lieutenant Bay reported. Open a communication channel to the Velkari fleet, Daewon ordered. The main screen showed the face of a Velkari commander. The alien had gray skin and yellow eyes that seemed to glow. Sharp teeth showed when he spoke. I am Commander Vexitar of the Velkari War Fleet. You will leave this system immediately or be destroyed. This is Captain Park of the Terran Defense Coalition. This is human space. You have no right to be here. Leave now. The Velkari commander laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Humans think they own these stars. Today you learn otherwise. Your colony will be an example to all humans who dare to expand beyond your small worlds. The communication ended. Daewon stared at the black screen, his hands forming fists. He had one ship against 20. There was no way he could stop them. "Sir, what are your orders?" asked his second in command. "Set course for New Sol. Maximum speed, we have to try to help them." In the orphanage basement, Hana counted the children one more time. Most of them were here, but not all. Some of the older children had been on a field trip to the science museum in the colony's main city. "How many are we missing?" she asked Mijin. 47 children and 3 teachers. They're still at the museum. Hana closed her eyes and said a silent prayer. She hoped those children would find safety in the city's shelters. Young-ho sat next to Sunmi in the corner of the underground room. The basement had thick walls and was built to protect against storms and earthquakes. Hundreds of children sat, quietly, many of them scared. The little ones cried softly. "Why are the bad people coming here?" Sunmi whispered. "I don't know," Young-ho answered. "But Mama Hana won't let them hurt us." Above them, they could hear distant rumbling sounds. The Velkari ships had reached the planet and started their attack. The first target was the colony's communication center. Bright plasma beams shot down from space, turning the building into melted metal and glass. Then they hit the power station, leaving half the colony in darkness. Captain Daewon watched in horror from his ship. He was still too far away to help. Come on," he whispered, as if he could make his ship fly faster. The Velkari ships moved in perfect formation. They were not just attacking randomly. This was planned. They hit specific buildings with exact precision. In the orphanage basement, the children felt the ground shake. Dust fell from the ceiling. Some of the younger children started crying louder. Hana stood up and spoke in a clear, calm voice. "Children, I need everyone to listen to me. We're going to sing our favorite song together. Ready?" She started singing a gentle song about stars and dreams. One by one, the children joined in. Their voices filled the basement, pushing away some of the fear. Above ground, the Velkari commander looked at his target list. Most of the military and communication buildings were destroyed. Now came the next phase of the attack. "Sir, we've eliminated all strategic targets," reported his weapons officer. "Good. Now we send the humans a message they will never forget. Target the orphanage." The weapons officer looked surprised. "Sir, that building has no military value. It only houses children." "Exactly. Humans are weak because they care too much about their young. We will show them what happens when they expand into our galaxy. Target the orphanage." The weapons officer hesitated for a moment, then followed his orders. The ship's main plasma cannon turned toward the white building on the hill. Captain Daewon saw the Velkari ship preparing to fire. He realized what they were targeting and felt ice in his veins. "No!" he shouted. "All weapons, fire everything we have at that ship." His ship was still too far away. The weapons would not reach in time. In the basement, Hana felt a strange calm come over her. She could hear the sounds of destruction getting closer. She knew what was coming. She walked over to where the smallest children sat together. These were babies and toddlers who had no one else in the galaxy. She gathered them in her arms. "Listen to me, little ones," she whispered. "No matter what happens, remember that you are loved. You are precious. You matter." Young-ho looked up at her. Something in her voice scared him. "Mama Hana, are we going to be okay?" She looked at him with tears in her eyes but a smile on her face. "You are the bravest children in the galaxy, and love is stronger than anything, even the bad people." The plasma beam hit the building above them. The explosion was massive. The white building that had been home to hundreds of children disappeared in a ball of fire and light. The basement walls, built to survive storms, could not survive a direct hit from a Velkari plasma cannon. Captain Day-Wan arrived 5 minutes too late. His ship's sensors showed only smoking ruins where the orphanage had been. He stared at the destruction, unable to believe what he was seeing. "Life signs?" he asked quietly. Lieutenant Bay worked at her station, scanning the wreckage. "I'm detecting some faint readings from the eastern basement section, very few. Maybe 40 or 50 at most. 40 or 50 out of 800. Day-Wan felt something break inside his chest. The Velkari ships were already leaving. Their message had been sent. As they jumped back into hyperspace, Commander Vextar smiled. The humans would think twice before building any more colonies near Velkari space. Captain Day-Wan landed his ship near the ruins. His crew worked frantically. 3 weeks after the attack on New Sol, Ambassador Sujin Kang stood before the Galactic Council in the Great Assembly Hall on Nexus Prime. The hall was enormous, with seats for representatives from over 1,000 different species. Most of those seats were filled today. Sujin had been humanity's voice in the galaxy for 10 years. She had worked hard to build friendships with other species and to show that humans were peaceful explorers, not conquerors. Today, all of that work felt meaningless. She looked up at the high council seats where the most powerful species sat. The Velkari representative, Counselor Thekmira, sat in his chair like nothing had happened. His yellow eyes watched her with amusement. The speaker of the council, an ancient being called Zoran, called the session to order. His voice echoed through the hall. Ambassador Kang of the human species has requested an emergency session. She claims that war crimes have been committed against her people. Ambassador, you may speak. Sujin walked to the center of the hall. Hundreds of alien eyes watched her. She had prepared for this moment, but her hands still shook slightly as she activated the holographic display. Images filled the air above the assembly. The peaceful orphanage before the attack. Children playing and learning together. Hana Kim reading stories to the little ones. Then came the horrible images from after the attack. The smoking ruins. The rescue teams digging through debris. The faces of the 47 survivors. Honored counselors, Sujin began, her voice carrying clearly through the hall. 21 days ago, ships of the Velkari Empire attacked the human colony of New Sol. This was not a military target. This was a civilian colony with no weapons, no soldiers, and no threat to anyone. She paused and looked directly at Thekmira. They specifically targeted an orphanage, a building full of children from many different species. 837 children lived there. Only 47 survived. Murmurs spread through the assembly. Some species looked shocked, others seemed bored. A few appeared to be checking their communication devices. These children, Sujin continued, had committed no crimes. They threatened no one. They were simply trying to grow up in peace. The Velkari Empire murdered them deliberately, as part of a planned attack designed to terrorize human colonies. She activated another hologram. This one showed Young Ho Lee's drawing, the one with dark ships and black skies. This was drawn by one of the survivors, a 10-year-old boy who watched his friends die. The hall fell quiet. Even the most distracted counselors were paying attention now. I stand before you today to demand justice. The Velkari Empire has committed genocide against children. They must be held accountable for this crime against all civilized beings. Sujin finished speaking and stepped back. She had done everything she could. Now it was up to the council to decide if the lives of human children mattered to them. Counselor, Thekmira rose from his seat. The Velkari was tall and thin, with gray skin that seemed to absorb light. When he spoke, his voice was cold and precise. The human ambassador speaks of crimes that do not exist. The Velkari Empire conducted a legitimate military operation against a human colony that was expanding illegally into our sphere of influence. He activated his own holographic display. It showed star charts and territorial boundaries. New Sol was established in violation of the Kepler Accords of 2381. The humans had no right to build a colony in that system. Sujin felt anger rise in her chest. Even if that were true, which it is not, it would not justify murdering children. Thekmira's yellow eyes glowed brighter. The building in question was being used as a training facility for human extremists. Our intelligence showed that the so-called orphans were being trained to carry out terrorist attacks against Velkari colonies. The lie was so enormous that Su-jin could barely speak. That is completely false. These were children. Babies. Some of them were only 2 years old. Human children mature faster than the young of other species. They can be trained for warfare at a very young age. The Velkari Empire acted in self-defense. Councillor Zoran raised one of his many hands for silence. The council will now hear from other representatives before making a decision. One by one, other species spoke. The Centauri Republic expressed mild concern but said they needed more evidence. The Andromedan Collective suggested forming a committee to study the issue. The crystal beings of Vega said they would pray for the dead children, but offered no action. Hours passed. Su-jin listened to speech after speech, and her heart grew colder with each one. These beings spoke about the dead children like they were discussing trade agreements or shipping routes. There was no anger, no outrage, no demand for justice. Finally, the vote was called. The council would decide what punishment, if any, to give to the Velkari Empire. The results appeared on the great display for all to see. For severe military sanctions, 12 votes. For moderate economic sanctions, 531 votes. For diplomatic censure only, 316 votes for no action. 847 votes. The Velkari Empire would face only mild economic sanctions. They would have to pay a small fine and reduce trade with a few minor species for 6 months. That was the price the galaxy set for murdering 800 children. Su-jin stared at the numbers in disbelief. She had known the galaxy was not always fair, but she had never imagined it could be this cruel. Councillor Thekmira stood up again. The Velkari Empire accepts this fair judgment from the Wise Council. We will pay the fine as required. We hope this closes this unfortunate matter. As the session ended and the councillors began to leave, Su-jin remained standing in the center of the hall. She felt more alone than she had ever felt in her life. An aide from the Centauri Republic approached her. Ambassador Kang, the Republic wants you to know that we truly are sorry about the children, but you must understand, the galaxy has many problems. We cannot go to war over every tragedy. Su-jin looked at the alien with disgust. Every tragedy? 800 children are dead. How many children have to die before it matters to you? The aide looked uncomfortable. Well, that is to say, the galaxy must think of the greater good. Get away from me, Su-jin said quietly. The aide hurried away. Soon, Su-jin stood alone in the empty hall. She activated her communication device and sent a message to Earth. Justice denied. Council voted for minimal sanctions only. Galaxy considers human children expendable. Recommend immediate consultation with Defense Command. The children deserve better than this. Back on Earth, Fleet Admiral Ji-hoon Nam received the message in his office at Defense Command. He had been expecting this result, but it still hit him like a physical blow. The Admiral was an old man who had spent 40 years protecting humanity among the stars. He had lost his own daughter in a pirate attack on Proxima Centauri 15 years ago. The pirates had never been caught. The galaxy had called it an unfortunate incident and done nothing. Now they were saying the same thing about the children of New Sol. Admiral Nam stood up and walked to the window that looked out over Earth's blue oceans. Somewhere out there, Young-ho Lee and the other survivors were trying to rebuild their lives after losing everything. The boy still had nightmares every night. The doctors said he might never fully recover from what he had seen. The communication device on his desk beeped. A message was coming in from Captain Daewon Park, who was still at New Sol helping with the cleanup. Admiral, I've just received word about the council vote. Request permission to speak freely, sir. Granted, Captain. Sir, I've been in the military for 20 years. I've seen battles and I've seen death, but I've never seen anything like what happened here. They targeted children on purpose. And now the galaxy says that's okay as long as they pay a small fine. Admiral Nam could hear the anger in the younger man's voice. It was the same anger he felt in his own heart. "What are you suggesting, Captain?" "Sir, with respect, I think it's time to stop asking the galaxy for permission to protect ourselves. These children died because we trusted other species to care about human lives. That was a mistake." "Are you talking about war, Captain?" There was a long pause. "I'm talking about justice, sir. Real justice. The kind that makes sure this never happens again." Admiral Nam thought about Young Ho Lee's drawing, the one with dark ships and black skies. He thought about Hana Kim dying while trying to protect the children she loved. He thought about his own daughter, whose killers still flew free among the stars. "Captain, report to Earth immediately. I'm promoting you to Colonel and assigning you to strategic operations." "Thank you, sir. What will be my mission?" "To make sure that the next time someone hurts human children, they regret it for the rest of their very short lives." 3 days later, Colonel Park arrived at Earth Defense Command. Admiral Nam met him personally at the landing pad. They walked together through the complex, past offices and training facilities and research labs. "Tell me, Colonel," the Admiral said as they walked. "What do you think the galaxy learned from the Council vote? That they can kill human children without consequences, sir?" "Exactly. And what do you think humanity should learn from it?" Park thought carefully before answering. "That we can't depend on others to protect us. That if we want justice, we have to take it ourselves." "Very good. How familiar are you with our classified military programs?" "I know we have some advanced research projects, sir, but I don't know the DT." The secret meeting room deep beneath Earth's surface had no windows and only one door. 5 of humanity's most experienced military leaders sat around a metal table, studying holographic displays that showed star charts, ship designs, and battle plans. Admiral Ji-Hoon Nam looked at each person carefully. These were the men and women who would carry out humanity's response to the murder of 800 children. He had chosen them because they were brilliant, experienced, and most importantly, they understood that some crimes demanded punishment. "Ladies and gentlemen," Admiral Nam began, "what you are about to see and hear is classified at the highest level. The galaxy thinks humanity is weak because we prefer peace to war. Today we show them how wrong they are." Colonel Daewon Park sat at the Admiral's right hand. 3 weeks ago he had been a simple patrol captain. Now he was part of the most secret military operation in human history. The memory of the destroyed orphanage burned in his mind every moment. General In Suk Yoon commanded humanity's special operations forces. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Her teams had carried out impossible missions across the galaxy, always in secret, always successful. Dr. Kyung-Min Jeon looked more like a teacher than a weapons designer, but his creations had revolutionized human military technology. For 20 years he had been preparing for the day when humanity would need to fight for its survival. Commander Tai Hyun-shin ran human intelligence operations. His network of spies and informants reached into every major alien government. He knew more about alien military capabilities than most aliens did. Admiral Nam activated the main holographic display. It showed a detailed map of Velkari space, with hundreds of star systems marked in different colors. "Our objective is simple," he said. "Complete destruction of the Velkari Empire's ability to threaten human civilians. We will accomplish this in 3 phases. The display changed to show battle plans and ship movements. Phase 1, simultaneous attacks on 47 Velkari military installations. We hit them hard, fast, and without warning. Each attack represents one surviving child from New Seoul." General Yoon leaned forward. "What about civilian casualties on these installations?" "Commander Shin's teams have identified which bases house only military personnel. We avoid any target that might harm non-combatants. Our war is with the Velkari military, not their civilians." Colonel Park nodded approvingly. This was the difference between humans and the aliens who had murdered children. Humans still cared about innocent lives even when seeking justice. Phase 2, Admiral Nam continued. Systematic elimination of the Velkari fleet. Every ship that participated in the attack on New Seoul will be destroyed. Every commander who gave orders to target civilians will be captured or killed. The display showed intelligence reports on specific Velkari ships and officers. Commander Shin had been busy gathering information. Phase 3. Complete blockade of the Velkari homeworld until they surrender unconditionally and agree to stand trial for war crimes. Dr. Jian spoke for the first time. Admiral, are we certain our technology is advanced enough for this mission? The Velkari have been a military power for over 1,000 years. Admiral Nam smiled. Doctor, why don't you show them what we've been building? Dr. John stood up and led the group to an observation window. Beyond the thick glass they could see a massive construction bay. In the center sat a warship unlike anything they had ever seen. The ship was enormous, easily 3 times the size of any vessel in the known human fleet. Its hull was made of some kind of dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Weapon systems covered every surface, and the ship's design looked like it belonged in a nightmare. This is the first Retribution-class dreadnought, Dr. John explained. We call her the Justice for Hana, in honor of the woman who died protecting the children. Colonel Park stared at the massive ship. How many of these do we have? Currently, operational, 12. Under construction, 30 more. They've been built in secret facilities throughout the asteroid belt. General Yoon studied the ship's weapon systems. What kind of firepower are we looking at? Each dreadnought can destroy a Velkari battleship in under 30 seconds. The main weapons use phase-shifting technology that passes through energy shields, like they don't exist. The armor adapts to incoming attacks, becoming stronger with each hit. Commander Shin pointed to smaller ships docked nearby. And those? Wraith-class stealth frigates, invisible to all known sensor systems. Perfect for intelligence gathering and precision strikes. We have over 200 of them ready for deployment. Admiral Nam watched his officers' faces as they absorbed what they were seeing. 20 years of secret research and development. 20 years of preparing for the day when humanity would need to defend itself against a hostile galaxy. How is this possible? Colonel Park asked. How did we build all of this without anyone knowing? Remember, Colonel, humanity has been trading with alien species for decades. Every trade agreement, every cultural exchange, every diplomatic meeting was an opportunity to learn about their technology. We studied their weapons, their shields, their armor. Then we built better versions. Dr. Jian activated a holographic display showing technical specifications. Velkari plasma weapons operate on a specific frequency. Our armor is designed to absorb and redirect that energy. Their shields work by deflecting incoming projectiles. Our weapons phase shift into a different dimension before impact, bypassing the shields entirely. We've been preparing to fight every major species in the galaxy, Admiral Nam added. Not because we wanted war, but because we understood that peace only works when you're strong enough to defend it. Commander Shin pulled up intelligence reports on his personal display. Sir, I should mention that our operatives in Velkari space report increased military activity. They're mobilizing additional fleets. Let them, General Yoon said grimly. It will make our job easier if they gather their ships together. Admiral Nam called the group back to the meeting table. Now let's discuss the operational details. General Yoon, your teams will handle the ground operations on Velkari installations. My people are ready, sir. We've been training for urban combat against Velkari forces for 5 years. We know their tactics, their equipment, their weaknesses. Doctor, John, how soon can we begin Phase 1? The dreadnoughts are fully operational. Weapon systems tested and ready. We can launch the first strikes within 72 hours. Commander Shin, what about intelligence support? Sir, we have operatives in position throughout Velkari space. They'll provide real-time information on military movements and help identify high-value targets. We also have teams ready to evacuate any human civilians from potential conflict zones. Colonel Park had been studying the battle plans carefully. Admiral, once we begin this operation, there's no going back. The galaxy will see humanity in a completely different light. Good, Admiral Nam replied. For too long we've been seen as the friendly newcomers who explore space with peaceful intentions. That perception made our children targets. After this operation, Every species in the galaxy will understand that attacking human civilians has consequences they cannot survive. The meeting continued for 6 hours. They planned every detail of the operation, from the initial strikes to the final surrender of the Velkari government. Each officer received specific assignments and secure communication codes. As the meeting ended, Admiral Nam had one final message for his team. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to change the balance of power in this galaxy forever. When we're finished, no alien species will ever again think that human children are acceptable targets. But remember this: we do not become the monsters that attacked New Sol. We remain human. We protect the innocent, even when they belong to our enemies. General Yoon stood up. Sir, my teams have a question. What do we tell the troops about why we're doing this? Admiral Nam thought of Young Ho Lee's drawing, the one with dark ships and black skies. He thought of Hana Kim dying with children in her arms. He thought of 800 young lives snuffed out by aliens who thought human children didn't matter. You tell them the truth, General. We're going to war because someone murdered our children and the galaxy decided that was acceptable. We're going to show them it isn't. 3 days later, the secret fleet began moving toward Velkari space. 12 massive dreadnoughts accompanied by hundreds of smaller ships left hidden bases throughout human territory. They moved through hyperspace, along routes that avoided all normal shipping lanes. Commander Taehyun Shin sat in his command center, monitoring communications from across the galaxy. His operatives were in position. The Velkari had no idea what was coming. Dr. Kyung-min John made final checks on the weapon systems. Every ship carried a special transmitter that would broadcast the same message to any Velkari forces they encountered. You killed our children. Now face the consequences. General In Suk-yoon reviewed her troops one last time. Elite soldiers who had trained for years for this moment. They carried new weapons designed specifically to fight Velkari warriors. Each soldier wore a small patch, with the names of 3 children who had died at New Sol. Colonel Daewon Park stood on the bridge of the Justice for Hana, looking out at the stars through the massive viewport. In 12 hours, they would drop out of hyperspace and Colonel Daewon Park stood on the bridge of the Justice for Hana as the massive dreadnought dropped out of hyperspace. Around him, 11 other human warships materialized in the darkness above Velkari military installation Zeta-7. The base was one of 47 targets that would be hit simultaneously across Velkari space. All ships report ready for Phase 1, announced Lieutenant Ko Un-bae from her station. We have visual confirmation of the target. Through the main viewport, Park could see the Velkari military base floating in space. It was a large station with defensive platforms and a small fleet of patrol ships. The base trained Velkari officers in planetary assault tactics. Many of the commanders who had attacked New Sol had learned their skills here. Begin transmission, Park ordered. Across all Velkari communication frequencies, the same message began broadcasting. It was read by Young Ho Lee himself, his small voice carrying across space with terrible innocence. My name is Young Ho Lee. I am 10 years old. 3 weeks ago, you killed my friends at the New Sol Orphanage. You killed 800 children, who never hurt anyone. You killed Mama Hana, who loved us and protected us. Now the good people have come to make you sorry. On the Velkari base, Commander Zethkar stared at his communication screens in confusion. What is the meaning of this transmission? Who are these ships? His weapons officer checked his sensors frantically. Sir, I don't recognize these ship designs. They're not in any database. And sir, their weapon signatures are unlike anything I've ever seen. Commander Zethkar had been one of the officers who planned the attack on New Sol. He remembered laughing when they discussed targeting the orphanage. Human children meant nothing to him. Destroy these unknown vessels, he ordered. Show them what happens when someone challenges the Velkari Empire. The base's defense platforms opened fire. Bright plasma beams lanced out toward the human fleet. The Velkari expected to see the strange ships destroyed quickly. Instead, they watched in amazement as the beams passed harmlessly through the hulls of the human vessels. Impossible, Zethkar whispered. Nothing can survive direct plasma hits like that. Colonel Park watched the Velkari weapons fire with calm satisfaction. Dr. John's phase-shifting armor worked perfectly. The Velkari plasma passed through their ships in a different dimension, causing no damage at all. Return fire, Park ordered. Target their weapons platforms first. Avoid sections that might contain prisoners or civilians. The Justice for Hana's main guns rotated toward the Velkari base. When they fired, the weapons used the same phase-shifting technology in reverse. The energy beams materialized inside the Velkari shields and armor, striking the target directly. The first weapons platform simply vanished in a ball of light, then the second, and the third. Within 30 seconds, all of the base's defenses were gone. Commander Zethkar watched his defensive systems disappear and felt true fear for the first time in his military career. Send a distress signal to the High Command. Tell them we're under attack by unknown forces with impossible technology. The distress signal went out, but it was too late. Human ships were already striking 46 other Velkari installations at the same moment. The coordinated attack was devastating and precise. At Velkari Base Theta 12, General Insuk Yoon's Special Forces troops boarded the station using stealth shuttles. They moved through the corridors like shadows, stunning. Velkari soldiers with non-lethal weapons and securing the base's command center. All civilians evacuated, reported her second-in-command. We found 37 prisoners from various species in the detention levels. They're safe now. General Yoon nodded. This was the difference between humans and the aliens who had murdered children. Even in war, humans tried to protect the innocent. At Base Kappa 9, Commander Taehyun Shin's intelligence teams captured the station's data core before the Velkari could destroy it. The information they gathered would help identify more targets and locate the specific ships that had attacked New Sol. Across Velkari space, the pattern repeated. Human forces struck with overwhelming firepower and tactical superiority. But they also acted with restraint, capturing rather than killing when possible, protecting non-combatants, following rules of war that the Velkari themselves had abandoned. On Velkari Prime, the Empire's homeworld, Admiral Vorth-An received the first reports of the attacks. He stared at the tactical displays showing 47 successful strikes against military installations. "How many ships did the humans use?" he demanded. "At least 300, sir, all of unknown design. Our forces report that human weapons can penetrate any known defense system." Admiral Vorth-An felt a cold knot form in his stomach. The Velkari Empire had conquered dozens of species over the centuries. They had always been the strongest military force in their region of space. But these reports described technology beyond anything they had ever faced. "Where did humans get these weapons?" he asked. "Unknown, sir. Our intelligence reports showed only light exploration vessels and cargo ships in human space. We had no knowledge of any military buildup." The Admiral studied the reports more carefully. Every human attack had been precisely targeted. No civilian casualties, no unnecessary destruction. It was almost as if the humans were following some kind of code of honor. "Sir," his aide interrupted, "we're receiving a general communication from the human fleet." The main screen activated to show Colonel Park standing on his bridge. Behind him, other human officers worked calmly at their stations. They looked competent and professional, but there was something cold in their eyes. "I am Colonel Daewon Park of the Terran Defense Coalition. 3 weeks ago, your forces murdered 800 children at the New Sol Orphanage. Today, we begin our response to that crime." Admiral Vorthan activated his own transmitter. "Colonel Park, I am Admiral Vorthan of the Velkari High Command. Your attacks on our military installations are acts of war. Withdraw immediately or face the full might of the Velkari Empire." Park's expression didn't change. "Admiral, your empire committed genocide against children. We are not here to negotiate. We are here to deliver justice. Those children were legitimate military targets." "They were 2 years old," Park said quietly. "Some of them couldn't even walk yet. If you consider babies to be military targets, then you have lost any right to call yourselves civilized." The communication channel showed a split screen. On one side was Admiral Vorthan in his Grand Command Center, surrounded by the symbols of Velkari power. On the other side was Colonel Park, with Young Ho Lee's drawing visible on the wall behind him. "What do you want?" Vorthan asked. unconditional surrender. War crimes trials for every officer involved in the attack on New Sol. Reparations to rebuild the orphanage and create similar facilities throughout human space. Complete demilitarization of your empire. Vorthon laughed harshly. Impossible. The Velkari Empire will never surrender to humans. We are the masters of this region of space. You were, Park corrected. Today that changes. The communication ended. Admiral Vorthon immediately began mobilizing the Velkari fleet. If the humans wanted war, they would have it. But the Velkari had no idea what they were really facing. For 20 years, humanity had studied every alien military technology in the galaxy. They had identified weaknesses that the aliens themselves didn't know existed. Dr. Kyungmin John monitored the battle from his command ship. His weapons were performing beyond even his expectations. Velkari shields, which had protected their ships for centuries, were useless against phase-shifting technology. Sir, his aide reported, we're detecting massive Velkari fleet movements. They're gathering ships from across their empire. Good, Dr. John replied. It will save us the trouble of hunting them down individually. The Battle of Rigel Station began 6 hours later. Admiral Vorthon brought 200 of his best warships to defend one of the Velkari Empire's most important military installations. He was confident that superior numbers would overcome whatever tricks the humans had. He was wrong. The human fleet consisted of only 30 ships, but they moved through the Velkari formation like death itself. The Justice for Hana led the attack, her massive guns destroying enemy vessels with single shots. Smaller human ships darted between the Velkari lines, striking with precision and vanishing before return fire could reach them. Colonel Park watched the battle from his bridge with grim satisfaction. Each Velkari ship that exploded represented justice for the murdered children. But there was no joy in the destruction, only the cold satisfaction of a necessary task being completed. Sir, Lieutenant Bay reported, the Velkari flagship is trying to ram us. Let them come, Park replied. All power to forward armor. The massive Velkari battleship struck the Justice for Hana head-on. The human ship's adaptive armor absorbed the impact and channeled the energy into its weapon systems. The Velkari ship, meanwhile, crumpled like paper against the impossible strength of human technology. Admiral Vorthon died when his ship's bridge collapsed. His last thought was confusion about how humans had become so powerful without anyone noticing. The Battle of Rigel Station lasted 4 hours. When it ended, the entire Velkari fleet was destroyed or captured. Human losses were 0. News of the battle spread across the galaxy within hours. On the Galactic Council Station, Ambassador Sujin Kang watched the reports with amazement. Admiral Ji-Hoon Nam stood on the bridge of the massive dreadnought Never Again, looking down at Velkari Prime through the viewport. The planet glowed blue and green beneath white clouds, beautiful and peaceful from orbit. It was hard to believe that the orders to murder 800 children had come from this world. Around the planet, 300 human warships maintained a perfect blockade. Nothing could leave Velkari Prime. Nothing could enter. The entire Velkari homeworld was cut off from the rest of their empire, which no longer existed anyway. It had taken 6 months to reach this moment. 6 months of hunting down every Velkari ship that had participated in the attack on New Sol. 6 months of dismantling the Velkari military piece by piece. 6 months of showing the galaxy what happened when someone murdered human children. Admiral, reported Captain Lee Mi-young from her station, we're receiving another surrender offer from the Velkari government. What are they offering this time? Admiral Nam asked, though he already knew it wouldn't be enough. Limited autonomy under human oversight, war crimes trials for some officers, partial reparations. Admiral Nam shook his head. Not acceptable. We've been clear about our terms from the beginning. The terms were simple and non-negotiable. Complete unconditional surrender. War crimes trials for every person involved in the attack on New Sol, from the admirals who gave the orders to the weapons officers who fired the shots. Full reparations for the destroyed orphanage and the families of the victims. Permanent demilitarization of the Velkari Empire. And one more demand that the Velkari found hardest to accept. A formal apology, broadcast across the galaxy, acknowledging that the attack on the orphanage was genocide and that the Velkari Empire took full responsibility for their crime. "Sir," Captain Lee continued, "they're asking to speak with you directly. Put them through." The main screen showed the Velkari government's emergency council chamber. 5 elderly Velkari sat around a circular table, their gray skin pale with stress and their yellow eyes dim with defeat. These were the beings who had once ruled an empire spanning dozens of star systems. "Admiral Nam," spoke their leader, an ancient Velkari named Mortek. "Surely we can reach some compromise. The Velkari people have suffered enough." Admiral Nam thought about Young Ho Lee, now living with a human family on Earth but still having nightmares about the day his friends died. He thought about the other 46 survivors, each carrying scars that would never fully heal. He thought about Hana Kim, who had died trying to protect children with her own body. "The children of New Seoul suffered more," he replied coldly. "They suffered everything. Your people suffer inconvenience. But Admiral, we are offering war crimes trials. We will punish those responsible. You are offering to sacrifice a few officers to protect the rest. That is not justice. Justice requires acknowledging the full scope of your crime." Admiral Nam activated a holographic display that showed images from the destroyed orphanage. Velkari faces twisted with disgust as they saw the bodies of children in the rubble. "Your military specifically targeted an orphanage," Admiral Nam continued. "Not by accident, not as collateral damage. They chose to murder children because they thought it would frighten humans into submission. That makes every person in your government complicit in genocide." Mortek's yellow eyes flickered. "What you call genocide, we call legitimate military action. Those children were potential future threats to Velkari security." "They were babies," Admiral Nam said quietly. "Some of them could barely walk. Human children mature quickly and can be trained for warfare at a young age." Admiral Nam felt a familiar cold anger rise in his chest. Even now, even after losing their entire military, the Velkari still couldn't admit that murdering children was wrong. "Captain Lee," he said without taking his eyes off the Velkari leaders, "begin the final broadcast." Across Velkari Prime, every communication device activated simultaneously. Televisions, radios, personal communicators, even emergency alert systems all began showing the same program. The human fleet had taken control of every communication network on the planet. The broadcast began with Young Ho Lee's voice, older now, but still recognizable. He was reading from a prepared statement. "My name is Young Ho Lee. 6 months ago I was 10 years old and living at the New Seoul Orphanage with 800 other children. We came from many different species, but we all lived together like family. Our caretaker Mama Hana loved us and protected us." The image shifted to show footage from before the attack. Children playing in sunny courtyards, studying in classrooms, eating meals together. Hana Kim reading bedtime stories to the youngest ones. Normal life in a place where love mattered more than species or nationality. Then the Velkari Empire attacked our home. They didn't attack it by accident. They chose to attack it because they wanted to scare humans by killing our children. 837 children lived at the orphanage. Only 47 of us survived. The footage changed to show the aftermath of the attack. Smoking ruins where the orphanage had stood, rescue teams digging through debris. The small group of traumatized survivors. On Velkari Prime, millions of citizens watched in stunned silence. Their government had told them that the attack on New Seoul was a military victory against human extremists. They had never seen images of the actual target. Young Ho's voice continued. "Mama Hana died trying to protect the youngest children. She used her own body as a shield, but she couldn't save them. They died because your leaders decided that children were acceptable targets in war." The camera shifted to show Young Ho himself, now 11 years old. He looked directly into the camera with eyes that had seen too much but still held hope. "I am not angry at the Velkari people. You didn't choose to attack our orphanage. Your leaders made that choice for you. But now you must choose what kind of people you want to be. Do you want to be the species that murders children and calls it victory? Or do you want to be better than that?" Across the planet, Velkari citizens looked at each other with growing unease. Many had never questioned their government's actions before, but looking at this human child who spoke with such dignity despite his suffering, they began to understand what their empire had really done. The broadcast continued with testimony from other survivors, footage of the destroyed orphanage, and records of the Galactic Council's inadequate response. But most powerful were the simple drawings that Young Ho and the other children had made, pictures of their friends who had died, pictures of Hana Kim, pictures of the home they had lost, In. The government chamber Mortek watched his people's reaction with growing alarm. Admiral Nam, stop this broadcast immediately. You are interfering with our internal communications. No, Admiral Nam replied. For too long, your people have been lied to about what their government does in their name. Today they learn the truth. The broadcast reached its climax as Admiral Nam himself appeared on screen. Behind him stood the other human officers who had led the campaign for justice: Colonel Park, General Yoon, Dr. John, and Commander Shin. Citizens of the Velkari Empire, Admiral Nam began. 6 months ago, your military committed an act of genocide against human children. When we asked the Galactic Council for justice, we were told that the lives of our children didn't matter enough to warrant serious punishment. He paused and looked directly into the camera. We disagreed. We believe that every child's life has value, regardless of their species. We believe that those who murder children must face consequences for their actions. The image shifted to show the human fleet surrounding Velkari Prime. Hundreds of massive warships, their weapons trained on the planet below. We have dismantled your military. We have captured your leaders. We have proven that humanity will not tolerate genocide against our children. But we do not seek to become conquerors or tyrants. We seek only justice. Admiral Nam's voice grew softer but more intense. We offer the Velkari people a choice. You can continue to follow leaders who believe that murdering children is acceptable military strategy, or you can choose a different path. The broadcast ended with a simple message scrolling across every screen on the planet. The children of New Seoul deserve justice. What will you choose? Within hours, demonstrations began in cities across Velkari Prime. Citizens who had never questioned their government's actions took to the streets demanding answers. Why had their leaders targeted children? Why had they lied about the true nature of the attack? Why had they brought this catastrophe down on their people? Mortek watched the protests from his government bunker and felt his authority crumbling. Admiral Nam, he said desperately, order your people to stop these riots. You are destabilizing our entire civilization. Your civilization destabilized itself when it decided to murder children, Admiral Nam replied. We are simply showing your people the truth about what was done in their name. As night fell on Velkari Prime, the protests grew larger. Citizens demanded that their government accept the human terms for surrender. They had seen the evidence of their military's crimes and they were horrified. Young Ho Lee, watching the broadcasts from Earth, felt something he hadn't felt since the attack. Hope. Not hope for revenge, but hope that maybe the galaxy could become a place where children were safe. 3 days later, the Velkari government collapsed. Mortek and his